Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the May 27th Investment and Strategy Committee. I have the privilege of serving on this committee along with Councillors O'Connor, Councillor Blackmore, and Mayor Clayton. I also have the privilege of getting started our day with a land acknowledgement. The city respectfully acknowledges the Beaver, Cree, Dene, and Métis people as the original caretakers of these lands and surrounding areas. We are grateful to live, learn, work, and play on Treaty 8 territory within Turtle Island, and acknowledge these lands have been home to diverse and sovereign First Nations and Inuit nations since time immemorial. For me personally, I'm so thankful for all the people who took care of this land before my family got here so that I could have awesome trees and awesome land for my kids to grow up on. With that, I would like to ask for an adoption of our agenda. Councillor O'Connor.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
Motion's certainly in order. I'll call its question.
Blackmore in favor.
That motion carries. And with that, we get to come to delegations. So first of all, we've got South East Regional Archives. So if you just come to the front, sit at one of these tables, make sure the microphone's pointing towards you, and introduce yourself. Give you about 5 minutes to present, followed by questions from my colleagues if they have any.
These wheels, it's easy to move.
All right. So I do have a presentation. I don't know if you guys can see it on your screen. There it is. Perfect. All right. Thank you very much for having us out today. I'm Aline Van de Karakova. I'm the Executive Director of the Southeast Regional Archives. And this is Duff Carrera. He is our board president. So he's also out with me today. So to very briefly go through our last year in review for you, I know many of you are aware of this, but I always need to start by saying the purpose of the Southeast Regional Archives is to gather, preserve, and share the historical records within our region, both now and into the future, and to add value to people's lives by increasing their understanding and appreciation of our past. So in 2024, this is kind of our very brief breakdown of our funding. So I know you have this information, so I won't go through it in great detail. We received $82,819 in operational funding from the City of Grande Prairie. We also received municipal grants from the County of Grande Prairie, MD of Greenview, MD of Spirit River, Saddle Hills County. We received some funding through the Young Canada Works program from the Government of Canada. Had some fundraising. The gift in kind, I just wanted to briefly highlight, is a combination of volunteer hours. So we had approximately 350 volunteer hours, if memory serves. And then that is also the museum was kind enough to waive our rent for the first quarter of the year when we were moving to our new space in Center 2000. And they also waived our utilities and facility fees for that period. So that's all included in the gift in kind. We also have a small amount of internally generated revenue, which for us is a combination of memberships, some small gift shop sales, and also some programming fees for some of our work that we do. Our operating funding kind of broke down into the largest one is staffing cost, which is 70% of our operating costs. Programs and services is the next largest area, which for us does include our facility fees for our location at Center 2000. And then equipment and supplies. All of our conservation-specific supplies are included in program fees instead of other equipment, just to clarify what you're looking at. All right, so in kind of the more general year at a glance, so definitely our biggest successes when we're looking back over the year was, first off, of course, our relocation and opening of our new location in Center 2000. That took a huge amount of our work and community support and also support from the city. So it was a huge undertaking for us. We're also very proud to have been able to increase the types of services that we've been able to provide in that space. So in 2024, we were able to offer, even though we were only open there for 6 months of the year, we actually had more in-person researchers than we had had in the previous entire year at our old location. We also had new community use of our meeting room and also our first education programs at our new location. The biggest challenges for us in 2024 was first that we were closed to access for 6 months of the year between our relocation and then our flood that happened at the end of the year. Not being able to have in-person visitors obviously makes our work slightly different and more challenging. The other challenge we had was just scaling back our other operations to commit resources to those big projects that were going on. We did have to take a step back on some of our regular programming and things like that just to accommodate that work. Still, our key deliverables for the year, so we had 312 in-person researchers and visitors, and that also includes remote research requests. Our social media reach had a combined reach of 37,489. Our website, which is our main way of providing access when we were close to the public, had 66,000 visitors. Our exhibits in the Grande Prairie Museum primarily had about 18,000 visitors, and then combined our direct events and programs had about 26,000 people attending. Of course, that's kind of all of the nuts and bolts of it, but what you guys always want to hear about is how this works with the goals of the city and you guys' strategic plan. So first off, for quality of life, we support fierce community pride because we are the only public archives in our region where members can contribute to and directly access their own history, which helps to build feelings of connection, community, and pride. So in 2024, we had 28 records donations added to our collection, and like I said, more than 300 researchers and visitors. We also help to support inclusive, caring communities because by highlighting diversity of people throughout our history, we can help to increase understanding and awareness of our modern community and the different contributions that have been made to our region by diverse peoples. So a lot of our programming in 2024 that we were able to do focused on this theme. So for example, with partnership with Eastlink TV, we were able to produce 1-hour segments on both the history of Chinese immigrants in the Grande Prairie region and also the contributions of women to the South Piece, which actually was aired nationally on the Eastlink network. Also, our cemetery tour for 2024 highlighted immigrant communities and their different contributions to the region. Finally, in innovating efficiencies and economic readiness, archives, programs, and events contribute to cultural and heritage landscape of our community as a whole. We also work directly with a lot of different community partners, both nonprofits and municipal, to help support work and programming in heritage beyond our own institution. I won't go into too many more details here, just because we've kind of talked about the deliverables there already.
Well, thank you for your presentation. We certainly appreciate not just the information today, but also the work of you, your volunteers, your staff, and the generosity of your donors. We've got Councillor O'Connor and then Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Chair Bressy. Alan, I'm curious, during the flood, did you lose any records? And if you did, were they recoverable?
So we were actually very lucky that the flood impacted our administrative spaces, but not any of the areas where the records were kept. There was some small like a small amount of water got into the doorway area of the vault, but not actually into the records vault itself. So we didn't have any direct impact to records, and First On Site, who did the cleanup, were very good at working for us to immediately isolate that part to make sure there was no ongoing raised humidity or damage caused by that.
Okay, and follow up? And just wondering, are you trying to digitize most of your records, or for some items I'm sure you don't want to digitize, so I'm just wondering how that's going.
Yeah. So for our digitization, there are definitely a subset of records that have, for whatever restrictions are placed on them, are not eligible for digitization. The other kind of limiting factor for what we digitize is just the scale of the amount of records. So right now we have approximately 30,000 photographs in our collection. The scale of digitizing all of that is obviously massive. So what we try to do is focus on digitizing a selection of every kind of collection of records we have to allow for just more access to those collections. We're also working right now on our switching of our database to a new system that will allow us to post all of our digitized records directly onto our website so that in future people can see what has been digitized right through their search on our website, as opposed to now where they often have to come to us and then we send them a copy. Any record that hasn't been digitized that people want access to, so long as there are no restrictions, we do digitize it on request as well. There's sometimes a small fee, just depending on the scale and the amount.
Thank you.
Councillor Blackmore.
So, Aline, it's so good to see you here. You did talk about internally generated funds of around $4,400. Mm-hmm. Do you want to do a public service announcement of how people can pay you for things?
Absolutely. I love to do that. So the biggest ones for us is that people can become members of our society. And through doing that, it's $25 a year, and then you receive a copy of our quarterly history magazine telling our stories. So all of them are written by archive staff, volunteers, and guest contributors. They're all local history, but each issue has a different historic theme. So, for example, our June issue is on the history of environment and climate in the South Piece and different work that's been done on that. The other part is that in the summer, we are coming up to our season of our cemetery tours. So we will be running our cemetery tours in June and August this year, and potentially looking at some fall dates for October as well. You can also purchase our books and local history content that's been published through our website.
And what about buying photos?
Oh, yes. So if you would like a copy of a photograph, we digitize them to whatever resolution you need. So you can purchase any archival photograph that doesn't have a restriction for whatever use you would like, whether that's display or publication. So it's $15 usually for the first photograph, so long as it's 8 by 10. And then the larger you want it and the more equipment and time that's needed for us to digitize it to that larger resolution, the price changes based on that.
So if I could make a follow-up comment, when you go to the ribbon cutting for Stringham Law, you'll see lots of photos from the archives because they paid a significant amount of that $4,400 to have those photos put up on their walls, which I think is a really good way to acquire art for wall space in offices.
Yes, we were really excited to work with Stringham Law because they actually were theming their conference rooms around different communities. So we helped them find photographs relevant to the different communities that they wanted to recognize. And it's great to see kind of historic photographs in a more open and public setting.
So, and that's actually a great segue to the question I wanted to ask. And that is, if there is a business or a member of the public that wants to track down some photos or track down some information, what's the best way for them to access you? Do they make an appointment or do they just drop in?
So we usually recommend making an appointment just because depending on what's going on in the day, if you know what you want, then it's always great if we can take a look in advance. And then when you walk in, we've got your options already for you. So you can make an appointment either through our website, or you can just send us an email at info@southpiecearchives.org. And that is kind of the most central way to contact us and to set up that appointment.
Excellent. Councillor Berg.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Bressie. I'm not on this committee, but one curious question. I was doing some family research and went down to Edmonton and the provincial archives because that's where the family's history is primarily based. Do you guys exchange or share information a lot with the provincial archives, or how deep is your partnership with them?
So we do partner with them quite a bit. So on specific collections, quite often there's a discussion about like if something comes into their keeping that's a better fit for our institution or vice versa, that we do that transfer. There are also some collections that are linked, so we always link to their finding aids and have their contact information for people, and same on their end. We have also partnered with them a lot more recently on like our relocation and those kinds of professional standards, because we're a very small organization. So working with a larger organization like the Provincial Archives can help us kind of make sure we're at our best standards.
Okay, thank you.
Last chance for questions.
If I might add,
Yeah.
we have a very fierce pride in our archives because we now have a facility that puts us on a par with most other professional archives in the country and this region. We have a new facility, thanks to all who participated in that, which allows us state-of-the-art conservation and communication. And we actually have a system that follows all the main procedures. This is a real archives in every sense of the word, professional and recognized outside of Grande Prairie. And the procedure usually is meet with an archivist before you start, because that's the ones who know the collection by heart and who can connect it. And of course, the best way to support the archives individually is to pursue a life membership in the Archive Society, as Councillor Blackmore and I both know. The nice thing about that operation is it gives a sense of community commitment. And we are in a position now to be a memory. And without an archives, we're like a community with Alzheimer's.
Excellent. Oh, Councillor O'Connor.
Excuse me. Thank you, Duff. What does that cost for a life membership?
$1,000.
500.
I take it back.
It's 500.
Will give me a lower price.
1,000 for you, Councillor O'Connor, is what I heard.
That's odd. I paid $1,000. Some fast-talking membership person sold me a double membership then.
I paid 500.
Good. Okay. Well, there you go. Well, I'm sponsoring. Well, we all support the archives. So.
Great. Well, thank you. Definitely do appreciate your work, not just preserving, but also sharing and making accessible history. It is important to a community to know where we came from so that we can know where we are and where we want to be. So thank you. We really appreciate your work.
Thank you very much for your time.
Great. And with that, not a rush as we pack up and bring the next one up, but I will invite Ms. Farden up to present on behalf of STARS. Well, welcome up. You've definitely been here before and you're familiar to council, but in case somebody is watching that isn't familiar with you, I'd appreciate if you just started with an introduction.
Okay, thank you very much. It's great to see all of you. I'm Glenda Farnden, Senior Municipal Relations Liaison for STARS, covering all municipalities across Alberta as well into northeastern BC. So it's my pleasure to see all of you again and to bring you further information on our request. We have submitted our application for the next 2 years as well as a business plan. So you will be having that information, but I wanted to just bring you some further information as well for consideration. So currently, we will continue on our mandate, which is to provide critical care anywhere for wherever Grande Prairie residents may travel across Western Canada. Next slide, please. STARS is much more than rapid transport. We do dispatch through our Emergency Link Center. There is also pre-coordination for each critical patient as well. We have transport physicians available 24/7 that are the decision makers for critical patients on where is the best receiving facility and what all is entailed that that particular patient may need. And of course, we can fly at night. So that is a key element for the entire northern region in the fact that we are able to fly at night, as well as bring the intensive care unit environment and the critical care expertise. Next slide, please. We are also providing virtual care consultations. So this is a benefit to our local hospital here, the Grande Prairie Regional Hospital, enhancing health care throughout rural communities. So virtual care is an immense asset in the fact that we can now provide critical care whether we are physically there or not. and your medical professionals have access to the STARS transport physicians who are the experts in critical care virtually. So that allows for them to also not only provide medical guidance, but as well as procedural guidance. Next slide, please. In the last 5 years, for City of Grande Prairie, we've seen almost 300 missions flown. We are approaching, for Grande Prairie itself, the base, 5,000 missions since inception. We average about 300 missions per year out of the Grande Prairie base, but we are seeing increasing demands and increasing operational costs. For these 5 years of missions, 44% of missions that are flown within the county's boundaries are for the City of Grande Prairie. We've seen a 60% increase in your critical interfacility transfers last year, a 75% increase in Grande Prairie specific scene calls. As well, always remembering that Grande Prairie residents are served by all 3 Alberta bases, wherever they may travel. Next slide, please. Wherever you live and work, play, or travel should not impact your chance for survival. This has always been the belief of our founder, Dr. Powell. 340 City of Grande Prairie residents have been flown since 2010. 141 of these residents were actually picked up in Grande Prairie, which means that 199 of city residents, as you can see by the red dots all throughout the province and into 2 provinces, were flown by STARS when they were not in Grande Prairie. So 54 other locations across 2 provinces where Albertans have been, or Grande Prairie residents have been flown. Next slide, please. So this is to show 40 years in partnership as well, that the numbers are now going to show an increase because of the increasing demand, that we will be moving to just over $12 million per year in operational costs per base. This means that Grande Prairie base is supplemented by all the other bases and the other funds that are generated throughout Alberta. Currently, we have 95% of Alberta is in complete partnership, including Northeastern BC. More than 80% of them are regional leaders, meaning they are all contributing at a minimum $2 per capita or higher. I think we might need another click. And another one, and another one. There we go, thank you. 9 provincial leaders, which include City of Grande Prairie, have logo recognition. They are all, with the exception of City of Grande Prairie, at $2 up to $85 per capita. You'll see the listing there for the 9 provincial leaders. 7 are at a more than $1 million cumulative support over the years, including the City of Grande Prairie, and we're very proud to have you on the prestigious cowling of the helicopters. 2 have just joined at the minimum $500,000 cumulative support, and next year we will celebrate 4 more Alberta municipalities that will be having logo unveilings as well. Next slide, please. I'm sure that you heard that recently on April 30th that we did lose our founder, Dr. Powell. And with that, comes an even more determination to carry on his 40-year legacy of saving lives. So our request to you is we would like to propose a graduated proposal that's shown here, including the gift in kind of our property taxes for our local base here, the Grande Prairie base, to bring you to join the other provincial leaders as well as 80% of the regional leaders across the province at the minimum $2 per capita. We continue to be mission focused. Operational excellence is what we can provide and have been providing for 40 years. We are future driven and we provide world-renowned critical care. These are all essential to our future generations and to the City of Grande Prairie residents. So we would like to ask you for your kind consideration, and please consider our business plan that's been submitted as well on the increasing costs, and that we would like to have you join the rest of the province at the minimum $2 per capita. Thank you.
Well, thank you for our presentation. Just looking at committee, our committee agendas are a little bit messy when delegations make requests. So I think what I'm going to ask is if you've got any questions on the delegation, I'll give a chance for that. But then I'd like to ask the delegation to go back to the gallery, and I'll wait for that point before I take motions, so that we're not here debating with the delegation at the table, if that's all right with the committee. I've got Councillor Blackmore, then Councillor O'Connor.
Glenda, so good to see you again. Can you tell me the $2 per capita, does that include the gift in kind?
It's a combination of the $2 per capita on that proposal, that graduated proposal, plus the gift in kind to equal $2 per capita.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor O'Connor, then Mayor Clayton.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. Glenda, wonderful report as always. My curiosity revolves around what number of non-GP residents are part of your missions. You mentioned how many are Grande Prairie residents, but how many are non? Do you have a percentage, any kind of number?
On the postal code project that I presented, that was Grande Prairie specific. Yes, I do have one like for the county or areas where there are increasing, but I felt it's pertinent for your consideration to know how many were specifically Grande Prairie residents. So that postal code information, utilizing postal code information, that was specific to Grande Prairie only. I don't have the other ones. I can provide for you if you'd like to know how many residents in total within the county.
I'm more specifically concerned about tourism and people traveling through here are saved on our highways and what percentage of those. And I think it's important to let people know if you're traveling through here, you're going to be in safe hands. So that can come at a later time, not right now.
Okay, well, for sure. Across the province, we're not able to identify when they might have been, unless, I'm just showing you specifics of a neighboring municipality. It's FOIP rules really do impede being able to have more of the access to those types of statistics. But this would show that those 340, they were Grande Prairie residents with the Grande Prairie postal code.
Great. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. I just need to have a better understanding of the funding. Currently, the provincial, you indicate the per capita commitment by surrounding municipalities. Is that in what terms have you been given? Is that for multiple years? Are they all on a same term? Did you have a 5-year commitment from some of these municipalities? Okay. What sort of terms do you have?
Okay. There are some, like on the regional leader side, that are on multi-year pledges, kind of like yourself. So you are on a 2-year rotation. With the exception of City of Grande Prairie, all of the 9 provincial leaders are all standing motion. So we are a line item in their budget, in their protective services budget, which is actually how we started out with the City of Grande Prairie. Mm-hmm. So they are all, line items annually. So that is a commitment. We are a line item in the budget.
If I could, Chair Bressie, so at a $2 per capita for 2026 and 2027, it would be $80,000 in 27, and 26 would be $70,000. Explain that to me, why it's different.
Okay, because I was giving you the opportunity. I thought that maybe that was a little bit too high to jump right into it. So I was proposing a graduated proposal.
What is the total amount at $2 per capita?
For City of Grande Prairie would be $140,000 or roughly, right?
Perfect. Okay.
So your current gift in kind is about 65,000, 62,000, somewhere in there. So I just kind of gauged it to give you an opportunity without a big jump to have a 2-year process to reach the $2 per capita.
Thank you.
I'm trying to understand the $2 goal better. Is there some methodology behind why we picked $2, or is that just a fundraising goal that seemed attainable, seemed reasonable, or is there some math behind it?
It originally started just as a proposal. Certainly we have lots of other municipalities that have asked me, that they don't think it quite meshes right when most of them are paying maybe $7 per capita for library. Why are we only asking $2? So that there's always that wide range. But 2 just seemed like the minimum that everyone could adjust to. And, we've had lots of comments from many mayors and reeves that say, most of us, we don't think twice about spending more than $2 per day on a cup of coffee. And we're just asking that, as just in order to allow everyone to have a part. Certainly we have a significant amount of municipalities that are in the $30, $40, $50 range per capita. Saddle Hills being the one at 85, that is the top municipality. So anywhere in between is a nice, substantial, sustainable amount of support that we can count on each year as the demand continues to increase.
Okay. Looking around, and I'm not seeing any other questions. So I'll thank you for your time. And for your staff and your volunteers and your donors as well. Really appreciate everybody who makes your work possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I will look to committee and see if there's anybody that wants to do any business with this. Mayor Clayton?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to defer this STARS request to the fall budget for consideration.
Yeah, definitely a motion that's in order. Is there any debate on that motion? Sorry, I'm just looking at administration, see if administration is comfortable with this motion. Chief Whiteway.
Thanks, Chair Bressy. Just to note, the application that the delegate spoke about is for presentation at CCW in June for their community group funding. So just perhaps a flag there that it will be brought forward as she's presented next month.
So I'm wondering with that if you...
So, Ms. Whiteway, that being said, if at CCW Council's interest is to fund this, what is the funding source for an increase? I was unaware of an increase coming forward, and so where would you suggest if Council is looking to fund this at their community funding request that it would be funded from?
Thank you, through the chair. So we are currently working at putting all of those together in preparation for CCW. So council will be presented with administration's recommendations and any increases. Community group funding is normally funded via taxation, and so it would increase property taxes into next year's budget.
Okay, so Chair Bressy, knowing that this is coming forward, I'm happy to withdraw my motion and wait for the conversation at the CCW meeting.
Okay. Just looking around and seeing if anybody else wants to make a motion. I'm not seeing anybody else, but I'm sure that this will get rigorous debate in about a month when we do meet with CCW. So I do appreciate the delegation providing some context as we approach that. And with that, I've got our service area update, and I'm going to turn it over to Chief Whiteway.
Thank you again, Chair Bressy. So a few updates from the service area. Within Community Connections, International Museum Day was a huge success. There was over 350 participants visiting the Grande Prairie Museum. This was up 23% from 2024. Public engagement for the future of the Bear Creek Dam is taking place June 19th from 11 to 1 or from 4 to 7 at Muskosipi Park. Residents can participate in walking tours around the site to learn more about the proposed options. And we are 45 days away from the Special Olympics Alberta Summer Games. Athlete ambassadors have been busy preparing a booth for Lemonade Day, visiting Rotary, and touring stars. Volunteers are still needed, and more information can be found by visiting sogp2025.com. Our Invest GP team has been busy. They joined council in celebrating Nurses Week by hosting healthcare professionals at the GP Regional Hospital. Additionally, they participated in TC Energy's consultation on the proposed TC Energy Colt and Greenview project to be built in the MD of Greenview, and joined jobs, economy, and trade officials to hear about the new investment data hub the province is building. The communications team produced various announcements for community communications. This included tree responsibilities along the boulevards, changes in the fire ban restriction, notice that assessors are canvassing neighborhoods, and some updates on capital construction roadwork. I'd like to recognize the Access GP team, who was nationally recognized with an award at the Municipal Service Delivery Organization Annual Conference in Aurora, Ontario. The team was acknowledged in 2 categories: excellence in service delivery, celebrating their outstanding contributions and innovative approaches to municipal service and excellence in customer service, highlighting exceptional dedication to personalized, empathetic, and high-quality customer interactions. This award reflects Access GP's commitment to enhancing the citizen experience and serving as a model of excellence among Canadian municipalities. And finally, our legislative and executive services team have been quite busy with elections. Residents are encouraged to go to voterlink.ab.ca to register to vote. And in the next few weeks, election worker recruitment will be launching. Anyone interested can visit our elections page on the cityofgp.com, and information will be updated as it becomes available. Thank you.
Councillor Blackmore.
Thank you, Councillor Bressie. I have a couple questions. One is the Bear Creek Dam online survey link was sent out to the public, and then some information was identified as missing, so it was closed, and I'm wondering if it's open yet again. And if it is, will there be another notification set out via text or email to those people who had registered?
Thank you, through the chair. So no, we have not relaunched. We are waiting on some high-level costing information, and we will look at re-notification when it does become available again.
Thank you. And then my second question is, can you remind me when our Chief of Investment and Strategy is starting at the city?
Thank you, certainly. So the new chief does start on Monday, June 2nd. So she will be present at council on Monday.
Great. I think we're all looking forward to meeting her. Yeah.
Any other questions? Well, with that, I'll ask you, Chief Whiteway, to tee off our Borstad Hill electrical installation or infrastructure report.
Thank you, Councillor Bressie. So I have Katie Bieberdorf. She is going to give the report, but it's an update for council and a request for some operating support for Bear Creek Folk Festival for this summer. And I'll pass it over to Ms. Bieberdorf.
Thank you, Chair Bressie. At the 2025 budget deliberations, $250,000 was approved for infrastructure upgrades to Borstad Hill, and specifically to bring a power source to the site for festivals and events. After going to tender, administration has determined that the timing of construction will not occur prior to this year's festival, requiring them to incur unplanned costs related to hosting the event. Earlier this year, Council approved $50,000 in sponsorship funds from the Corporate Sponsorship Fund. Administration has worked closely with festival organizers regarding the project, and they are aware of the delay in construction. There is funding of just over $25,800 from the 2018 Alberta Summer Games legacy, and an additional fund of up to $5,000 can be allocated through the Arts Development Operational Funding, which has no additional intakes in 2025. To support the 2025 festival, administration is recommending an additional $30,000 in funding to support the cost of fuel and generators for this year's festival.
Thank you for the report. Councillor Blackmore.
We did have this discussion with Bear Creek when they came to council to request the other funding, and we did reassure them that should the electrification not be able to proceed this year, we would make sure that they were not the ones holding the price tag for that. So if there's no questions, I would be happy to make that motion.
I did have a question myself in terms of my opinion is I definitely want to find this $30,000 for them. I don't know if I feel the Alberta Summer Games Legacy Fund is the appropriate source for it. It just feels a very different thing than what I think those legacy funds should maybe go to. So are there alternative sources of funding that administration would recommend if committee wanted to seek a different path to funding this?
I can take that one, Chair Bressie. So we would have availability within future expenditures reserve as an option. At this point, we did recommend that as the funding source, just due to the fact that it hasn't been utilized for a number of years, and it did fit with sort of recreation and culture, and thought it would be an appropriate use of those funds.
Thank you. Mayor Clayton?
Thanks, Chair Bressie. A question for Ms. Whiteway. If council wanted to fund this from the newly created Community Enhancement Fund, would this be appropriate?
Thank you for the question through the chair. I wouldn't have recommended that myself, just due to it being more of an operational cost for the festival, for the event. Perhaps it was more for beautification, or the idea in the reserve was more for that community beautification piece. So, and enhancements in terms of more permanency. So that was why it wasn't recommended. But as always, if council does feel that that's an appropriate use, then council may use their reserves for that.
And if I could, Chair Bressie, where I'm thinking is council has previously identified funding for this. This, in essence, due to timing, is additional funding required if the permanency of the project takes place next year. The difference in the currently approved funding could come from that source. So rather than taking from a fund, which I agree with Councillor Bressie, I don't love the fit for the Alberta Games Legacy. Sure, you could argue that this is enhancement to a potential recreational site, but it's not really what council intended to do by upgrading that facility, in particular for festivals. So if council wanted to use the already identified money, knowing that next year that money would be reduced from the 275 and there would be less money there, that could be made up through the Community Enhancement Fund. Rather than using the Community Enhancement Fund for this year for a temporary expense, using it to subsidize the difference for the permanent expense of enhancing the park. Do you know where I'm going, Ms. Whiteway?
Thank you. If I may, Mayor Clayton, just to ensure that I'm on the same page. So if you were to utilize the capital fund that you'd otherwise previously approved, yep. And then when we look to fulfill that in the fall, we would then take from the enhancement reserve. Exactly. To finalize. Yep, that would be appropriate.
Yep. Just to committee, that's my preference. I think the Alberta Summer Games Legacy Fund it's traditionally not really been for these types of projects. So, yeah.
I also know for me, I appreciate administration wanting to use up this fund. I don't like a fund just sitting there. But we also are talking about outdoor beach volleyball court expansion. That would be a perfect fund 100%. For Summer Legacy, 100%. in my opinion. Yep. Councillor Blackmore?
One of the things that the Alberta Winter Games and the Canada Winter Games support is cultural development in the community, and we don't usually use that money for anything cultural. I'm not opposed to the mayor's recommendation, but because we rarely access Alberta Winter Games funding resources for culture, I personally think it does fit.
Well, you were the first that said she'd like to make a motion. So would you like to make a motion in test committee?
Can I just comment on that?
Sure.
So to Councillor Blackmore's comment, that is absolutely accurate. However, I'll just ask Ms. Bieberdorf, is there still funds available in the Arctic Winter Games Legacy Fund, which was intended to be for culture and sport combined?
Yes, thank you. Through Chair Bressie, there's about $370,000.
So there's $370 there. If council were to use the identified amount today from the Alberta Summer Games Legacy, how much is left in the Alberta Summer Games Legacy?
Thank you. Through the chair, that would be the remainder of the funds that are in that account. So we had previously used funds for infrastructure upgrades for the 2018 games, and this was just the remaining balance.
And one final question, if I could, Chair Bressie. Can you remind me, do we know the estimated expense for expansion of the beach volleyball courts as requested by the delegation recently?
Through the chair, that will be coming back before the end of June with a report.
Okay, thank you. So to that, I think, to your point, Councillor Bressie, there are other asks that are recreation inclined. The culture combination with recreation for the Alberta Winter Games Fund is something that we should look at. I also think Grande Prairie may choose and may have interest of being a host in the Alberta Winter Games in the future. So that would be great to kick off that initiative. So I see where you're going, Councillor Blackmore, but I know there are a lot of recreational needs in our community right now. I don't think we have a shortage of projects to spend that on. Thanks.
So I'll look to you, Councillor Blackmore, and is there a motion you'd like to make, or would you like me to hand it over to the mayor to make a motion?
So we're talking the Community Enhancement Fund, correct? Just to confirm that?
Well, and I guess that's a question for the CFO. If based on what we just said, what would you prefer the motion to read? Is it keeping it funding as status quo because that identified capital dollars were already approved in the budget? What's your preference?
Thank you, through the chair. So just to clarify, Mayor Clayton's replaced the recommended funding source from the legacy funds to be from the capital project, the electrical infrastructure capital project. I would still need a second motion to further fund, so basically taking 30,000 from community enhancement and placing it into, or pardon me, 25,800, not 30,000, would have to then be taken from the community enhancement reserve to make sure we have enough capital to complete the project as originally approved.
So it's just smoother to take it from community enhancement.
You might as well take it from community enhancement. We understand the purpose, Mayor Clayton, and what council looks for. Yeah.
So it would be the full 30 would.
So I would move that committee recommend council approve $30,000 operational funding to support the 2025 Bear Creek Festival, Folk Festival, fuel and generators to be funded from the Community Enhancement Fund.
I know for me it's certainly in order. So if that's the motion you want to make, I'll definitely rule that in order. But I'd suggest we do $25,000 from the Community Enhancement Fund and still do the $5,000 from Arts Development operational funding. I wonder if you take that as a friendly amendment.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay. So I'll just give a moment for that to get updated. But is there any discussion or debate on that motion? Okay, then I will call that to order whenever our recording secretary is ready to do that. And that motion carries, so that'll be going to council. And thank you to administration. Thank you to council for healthy discussion. With that, we have no correspondence, no other
Councillor
business.
Bressie?
Oh, Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, I have two questions on the next year's infrastructure needs, and I have two questions that would you allow me to ask Ms. Whiteway those questions?
Well, why don't you ask the questions, and I'll let you know if I'll allow them or not.
Okay. I'm concerned about what steps have been taken to preserve, if in case of a flood, of the infrastructure that will go at the Borstad Hill Power, and what steps are taken to, is this price guaranteed for next year? And those are two numbers that I'm concerned with.
Gotcha. Yeah, sorry, since they're about the Borstad Hill project, then certainly in order to ask those questions. But I will ask, do we have answers to those, or do we need to come back with those answers?
I can speak to the fact that we have gone to market on this. We have accurate pricing, and we are committing to the project, which will, I believe, start in the fall. So that I can say we will be signed contract for the construction work. In terms of flooding or anything, I would ask that Chief Glavin perhaps take that one.
Thanks, Chair Bressie. I'm not aware of any flooding concerns in the particular location of this, but it's something we could take a look at and email back to council.
Is that okay with you, Councillor O'Connor?
Yeah, I'd appreciate that, but I just never know. I know it only happens once in 100 years, but I know that the flood studies that we've done want to make sure our investment is protected. So, thank you.
Sure seems like once in 100 years happens a lot more than once in 100 years these times. Anybody else have any questions? Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Chair Bessie. I guess this is a question for Chief Glavin, if I may. In regards to the Borstad Hill Lookout, we also have the dam project as well, where we have 4 different phases or 4 different strategies of how we can mitigate flooding potential and potentially remove our dam. Would that project in any way negatively impact this project?
Thanks, Chair Bressy. No, not that I'm aware of. I don't believe there is any situation that we have, or the consultant has proposed in that would impact Borstad Hill.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like Councillor O'Connor has my follow-up. He's on committee.
Councillor O'Connor?
Yeah, at looking at the 4 different proposals that were, the 4th proposal recommended the removal of the banks and the weir, which would open the possibility of flooding in the future. And I'm very concerned that we should be taking that into consideration if we are to go forward, because all of a sudden we're looking at 4 options. Somebody says, hey, let's go with option 4 without considering a potential for a 100-year flood, which seems to happen more often.
Councillor Plott?
Thanks, Chair Bressy. Appreciate letting me in the queue on this one. I want to just echo my councillor colleagues' comments on that option 4. To me, if we're going to go and redo an engagement, to me shouldn't be an option. If we're going to do this, I just don't see how we can protect the infrastructure if we're going to remove that hill. So I am wondering if the engagement hasn't been relaunched, if that's something we can consider as maybe just pulling that as one of the options altogether.
Yeah, and I think that digging into the dam engagement and pulling an option is a very different context than what we're doing right now, and not something that I'd support pulling that from the engagement personally, because I think it's important to look at those, but I think that's a very different conversation. I guess, is there something, Councillor O'Connor, you're hoping we do different or we give direction on the Borstad Hill electrification project?
I just want to make sure that we're protecting our investment, and if we let this project go unchecked without consideration, then there could be a detrimental effect on the whole investment and the infrastructure that we're putting in. So I think we need to drive the narrative around this and make sure we're taking care of what's coming when they do come up with that proposal. And option 4 really shouldn't be an option.
Okay, so, but you're okay with the electrification, the current council direction to go forward with the electrification project? Are you asking?
Oh, I'm totally okay with it as long as they consider flooding.
Okay, and I just would note that council's given pretty specific direction on the engagement and what we want to see out of that, and I'd suggest that if members of council do want to see an entire option pulled from an engagement, that would probably be appropriate to make a motion and actually get formal council direction on that if you want to see administration significantly change course. But Mayor Clayton.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Bressy. I would just suggest that the work has been done to date. It's fair to have that conversation when council makes a decision on which option. They can take the factors into consideration of why potentially not to choose an option 4. Yeah. At this point, to pull an option that we've already started some high-level consultation on, I think would be a little bit inappropriate.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. So are we, and I'm seeing Councillor O'Connor saying we're okay to move on? Awesome. Well, and with that, I will come to Chief Whiteway for updates on our outstanding items list.
Thank you, Chair Bressy. So item 1361 and item 1355 have been completed. Everything else is on track to the expected report date as presented.
Thank you, Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, I'd like to move council receive the May 27th outstanding items list as amended for information.
Great, and I will call that to question. That motion passes, and with that, I will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.